This week's edition of our Four Questions Journalist Spotlight is brought to you by Leff Atlanta Media, Atlanta's best journalist database. Subscribe at leffsatlantamedia.com. Welcome, everybody, to the next edition of our Four Questions Journalist Spotlight. We are talking today with Michael Doudna, reporter with WSB Television, WSB TV in Atlanta. Hello, Michael.
Hey there, Mitch. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. So let's start with, tell us a little bit about what your role is at WSB TV, kind of what the job is, what the schedule is, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm a Monday through Friday person. Normally I'm days side, but my shift will switch. I'm actually still the newest and youngest full-time reporter at WSB, even though I've been there 2.5 years. I'm on general assignment, so I could be on anything from your normal crime of the day, but a lot of the stuff when it's a just normal day in, day out, where it's not that breaking news, they throw me a lot more of the, I'll say, complex newspaper stories, where they're saying, hey, let's go figure something out. We know this is important, but we need a way to kind of break it down for the average everyday person and try to make it interesting as possible. And whether that's pseudo investigations or breaking down some sort of complex policy, it feels like that's where I kind of get a lot of stories. And that's why I end up talking to you, Mitch, a lot, being like, hey, can I get an expert of some sort to try to break this down to make me sound smart?
All right, Mitch here with a little reminder to subscribe today to our Leff Atlanta Media database, the best database of Atlanta media. You get to search all the media in town, get to look at their beats, get the contact information, get to know what they like. You also get our great PR guidelines. You learn how to do PR. You get our media blog, Mitch's Media Musings, and you get to see our Four Questions Journalist Spotlight. So subscribe today.
Yeah, and then my job is to trying to get my experts to talk in a way that ordinary folks can understand, and not someone who's a expert in the field or an academic or
right. We're not looking for the master's class. We're looking more for middle school, elementary school level sometimes, just to break it down so people can hear it on that first time and understand.
We were kind of doing some training for this technology company years ago, and we were kind of working with their chief engineer. And I said, well, tell me what this product does. And 15 minutes later, he stopped talking. And I said, that's great. Now do that in 30 seconds. And he looked at me and said, you can't do it in 30 seconds. It's very complicated. I said, no, really, yeah, I think you can. You can do it in 30 seconds. Mm-hmm. And, it took probably an hour of working on it before he got down to, the 30 seconds. So the new guy in the newsroom, I guess. So does that mean you get stuck with the working all the holidays and weekends and shifts that no one else wants?
I got lucky because of some of the experience I had before coming here. I was straight Monday through Friday. They hired me as that. So I didn't have to do the weekends, although, if someone needs to fill in, I occasionally work then. But yeah, I have not had a holiday off except for Christmas Day, where we have no shows, but I'm also the reporter that's on call. So I'm still in town, even though we may not be on air. So
if something happens, then we may see you on.
I'll be on there. I'll have a little bit of a sweater on. I'll be trying to be nice and cozy, but
do you have an ugly sweater?
Oh, I have plenty of ugly sweaters, and probably more. My wife probably thinks I have more than I actually do. But
you said this isn't you get dressed up for a party. She's like, "Is this an ugly sweater party?"
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, no,
what do you ask? What do you mean? What do you mean? We're trying to tell me something. So what's the road that brought you to WSB? I imagine this is not your first TV job.
No, I've been very blessed in my career. I knew I wanted to be in the TV business from when I was very, very small. Originally, I wanted to be that, anchor on Sports Center. But when I went to college, I learned I like sports, don't love sports, but what I love is telling stories. So went to the University of Missouri, was very blessed to have that opportunity. My first job out of college was based in Montgomery, Alabama. I worked for 4 TV stations at once for the markets of Montgomery, Birmingham, Huntsville, and basically Auburn, Columbus market, doing state politics every single day. During that time, it was a lot of political upheaval for Alabama. The governor had to resign because of a sex scandal. The House Speaker was arrested for violating ethics law that he wrote. and then Roy Moore, who is a Supreme Court justice for Alabama, got removed from office for not obeying the same-sex marriage decision, and then he ran for Senate, and it came out he was likely trying to date 16-year-olds as a 30-year-old, and basically
But
all that.
yeah,
Uh,
wow.
and
And that was in the space of what time period?
Yeah, that was 3 years from 2015 to 2018. That was my first job out of college. So great experience. Obviously, I had a lot to do and was juggling working for 4 TV stations at once. After that, ended up getting me a job in Phoenix, where I spent 5 years. And that was where I was general assignment and kind of was able to do a little bit more storytelling. And after that, ended up back here.
So how is Phoenix compared to Alabama, types of stories or the structure of what you were doing? Was that different or kind of just more of the same?
It was kind of a merge between the two jobs, the job I have now and the past job with state politics. I mean, I am almost always have been given either political or more complex things, business stories, things of that nature, just because it's a skill that my management usually thinks I have. But in Arizona, the station I worked for was much more about storytelling, crafting a minute 45, 2 minute piece compared to 115 that we have at WSB, and really helped stretch that writing ability that I didn't necessarily get into in Alabama because it was so much more, hey, here are the facts, here's what it is, and let's
Yeah.
get it out. Because a lot of political stories you don't want to spend that much time on. You want to get the information out in an efficient way.
So
Yeah.
how do you see, Atlanta compared to those two markets? Obviously, Atlanta's a much bigger market and other crazier things happening here, especially the last couple of years. What do you, what's your, what's your, what's your feel for kind of what's different in Atlanta versus Phoenix and Alabama, other than size of the market, obviously.
Yeah, size of the market is one thing, but I think it's a lot more. Um, you kind of have this it's kind of that mixture of the old and new that you don't really see as much anymore because you have so much tradition here, especially at a station like WSB, and you have people who stretch back decades who can still be powerful names or that have been in city governments or counties for decades and decades and decades. But we also have such a newer group of these transplants of, the developing tech sector and things of that nature. That is kind of making this market much more of a melting pot. I think that it's kind of more of a mixture of old and new, where Phoenix, it felt like it was just all new all the time because it's such a newer city. The crime is kind of crazier. It's a little bit more laid back because it's a little bit more West Coast, where Alabama is just basically really founded in that kind of old Southern tradition where if you don't know the people who worked 40 years ago, you're kind of falling a little bit behind. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a mixture of those two markets.
So how would you differentiate how WSB TV covers the news versus how other stations in Metro Atlanta cover the news?
Yeah, I think that we're very there's two things we do. We are very intentional about what stories we pick and where we cover those stories. Um, we are blessed to have a very large staff of a lot of very talented reporters, but we know that for a lot of our viewership, they may not care exactly if you live in Milton, what happens in downtown Atlanta and vice versa. So we want to make sure in every single newscast that we have people in all these different spots so that no matter where you are, that news is truly local to you. Um, and because of that, it's a mixture because we end up having this ability to try to tell very succinct stories dayside, minute 15, very quick to the point, but in a way that uses the talent of the reporters and the photogs to try to tell a really good, concise story there. Or nightside, the format's a little bit different where we do a little bit broader. We do Q&As and make it a little bit of a longer form storytelling.
So if there's a company or a expert or a person who wants to be part of the, as we say, a part of the magic, What's the best way to get through to you to kind of get a story idea to you that's going to resonate, that is going to be something that's going to be Michael's going to say, yeah, that's great. That's great for us. I want to do that.
Yeah, for me, and you've seen this happen before, is I take a broad look at what's happening during the day. But if you can provide a little bit of angle, a little bit of twist, a different perspective, that I can kind of use the imagination and maybe inform people of something that they wouldn't otherwise think about. It is something that usually I can really pitch well to my management, get that story on air. And also, it's fascinating to me and it makes it a better story. I mean, this is a easy example, but I mean, we all saw the shooting in Brown University that happened. Flock Cameras, which is based here in Atlanta, was part of the group that helped kind of track where that shooter went. And I had them reach out to me and say, hey, we did this, and this is the sort of technology that we were able to use, and it's in 42 different metro counties right now. I mean, obviously that's an easy pitch to do, but it's just one of those things where we took that national story and we were able to localize it to, okay, hey, this is happening in all these different markets, and this is how this technology worked in this very high profile case. And that obviously is the perfect marriage, but even those little kind of adjustments, a little bit of tweaks, can really make a story sing, especially if we're looking for continuing coverage.
And something you said there, I kind of want to touch on. You're not always the final arbiter of what you do. You've got
Right.
producers and managers who are going to approve your story ideas and make sure that okay, yeah, no, you like this, you pitched this idea to us, but Audrey or Michael Seiden pitched something very similar. We don't want to have three stories that are too similar in the newscast, or hey, we've got too many car accidents in this newscast. We're going to save that one for another day. That kind of thing. So I think for PR folks and communications folks, always kind of be thinking it's not always the reporter's not the person who's going to make the final decision. There's other people who have to weigh in and say yes, we're going to do this. Uh, and I found that kind of varies from newsroom to newsroom in terms of sometimes there's the reporter kind of does what they want to do. If they've got a beat or they've been there for 30 years, then the management just says we trust you, do what you
Right.
want. And then sometimes there's a newsroom where the producers and managers are more directing and say no, we're going to do this or we're going to do that today.
Yeah, I think WSB is much more probably the latter, and it may be because I'm one of the newer folks there, but just because I mean, any given day we may have somewhere between 10 to 13, 14 reporters dayside, so it's such a big picture that they're putting together, that they're trying to make sure they hit all those different elements they're looking at, which sometimes can determine what you're able to do.
What are some topics? And granted, I know that some often or a good part of the time it's here's what's happening today or yesterday or tomorrow. But what are some issues or topics that you want to be focusing on coming up over the next 2 to 3 months?
Well, I'm going to focus a lot on tech. That's one thing that they really like what I do there. I mean, we obviously have seen the explosion of AI, but understanding the different aspects that AI and different technology can impact our day-to-day world or is already impacting us, that's something I want to shine a light on because I don't think we always realize. We all know that technology is impacting us one way or another, but we don't always understand exactly how and where it's making our lives easier or in some cases where it's making our lives a little bit harder. And to be able to kind of tell those stories so that people can understand the world around them or understand why things are a certain way are important. And also, I just find it interesting too.
Yeah, well, I mean, data centers, one big thing. I mean, they've got to obviously they're generating our ability to, talk to our phones and say, find me this, but
Mhm.
they're also impacting, the environment and employment and energy usage, and it kind of sometimes gets into a political area too. So I feel like data centers are going to be I don't know if it's going to be the tech story for the next couple of years in Georgia, but it's certainly going to be, I think, one of the bigger stories.
I mean, I did a story just last week on a place. It was that switch up where you're seeing what used to be a movie studio or what was billed as being a movie studio transitioning potentially into a data center. I mean, it shows what used to be the number one rising business here in Georgia, the thing that is the headline of Georgia now, potentially because there's not as much work, because things are slowing down. I'm looking at, okay, what else can we turn this into? And it's a data center. Now they may be just chasing another fad. We'll see.
Yeah,
But it just is the reality that we're seeing here in
that
the
was
state.
Athena. Was that Athena Studios?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. There've been a lot. It's interesting. There've been a number of soundstage facilities around town that are kind of looking for how can we fill our space in between when we have big blockbusters or even smaller ones. And like Electric Owl over in Stone Mountain is hosting tennis tournaments, and other like Trilith has been doing events, kind of parties and networking kinds of events there. Um, so, I'm seeing that, the owners are looking to say, we got to figure out how to make a little bit more money, and they're not making as much money as if they had a, big, huge film production there that uses all their stages, but they're making a little something. So at least there's that. Um, so, so the tech could be interesting. There hasn't over the years there have been reporters at different TV stations and newspapers that have been, what we call, what we would look at and say a tech reporter.
Hmm.
Uh, and as with anything that ebbs and flows as the issues and as the market shifts. I mean, the Journal Constitution for a number of years had a whole section that was technology focused, and it was full. For every week, it was full of this tech company's doing this, and this one's doing that, and this one's moving in, and when that bubble popped, then they moved on to something else, food, which is people always eat, so food's always a good safe
Right.
section for the newspaper to have. Uh, okay, so let's talk about, and I warned you earlier, this is going to be the hard question. So, what is something? I know your wife's on the side going, I don't know what this. What is something cool or fun about you that people might not know? And this could be a hobby, could be a talent, things you collect. We had a reporter recently who sings and is a great singer. We've had reporters who collect rubber duckies. What is it that someone people don't know about Michael Doudna?
Well, I actually was a state champion playing basketball. And actually, part of the reason why I'm sad and sitting on a couch right now is I recently tore my ACL. But this is one thing that, for the longest time, I mean, on the high school team that I played on, we had 7 kids go D1. So, like, obviously, I'm not 6'7", I'm only 6'2". But we ended up, this is something that I still actually just still play with some of the same guys that I've played with since high school. It's every weekend that we do this, and it's basically how I get a lot of the stress out and play. Uh, Anytime there's a pickup game or on the side of the court, or sometimes you're in a park covering something and I see guys playing, I'll try to do a quick little run or two if I can.
Well, and
Uh,
you're from Atlanta, right?
yeah,
From
I am
from
from
Milton.
Atlanta. I
Yeah.
went to like Milton High School
Okay.
in that nice little bubble area, but it's a lovely area to grow up in. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of that.
So once you heal, you're gonna be back on the court.
That is the plan. It's I got like 6 months left or 4 months left or however many.
Yeah.
I was hoping the biology will catch up with everything else, but I'm going to PT. It feels like every morning. So if I'm cranky in the morning, you know why? Because I've just been at a PT appointment the entire time. So
All right. And you told me you used to collect baseball cards a lot too. Is that still something you do?
yeah, I've always been a sports card guy. It makes me sound like I'm just your typical little kid, but it goes further than that. When I was a child, my dad used to collect baseball cards, and he'd actually create games because he's a math guy on like comparing the statistics and basically creating little charts and how likely basically play games with those cards. And he taught me that at an early age, and we used to play those games together. And um, out of that, whenever I'd play sports or whatever, my reward, if I played well, would be a pack of cards. And we basically build those teams. And ever since then, it's always been kind of special. If there's a little gift or a little stocking stuffer, it's been those baseball cards or those football cards, just to kind of have that little because there's so much memories attached to it. You don't even know who's in it, but
Right.
it's special. And I have a big collection kind of in my closet. I have some at my parents' house as well, including like a little Tom Brady rookie card when he was a seventh round pick that's worth more than I ever thought would be. That's just in a special spot.
And
But
and maybe again when he comes out of retirement again, right?
yeah, when he comes out of retirement, because he keeps saying, "Oh yeah, I could probably do it for a couple weeks."
Yeah.
But so if he does it again, I don't know who he would play for. But um,
So
yeah,
what's your do you maybe you don't want to say this because you don't want people to know, but do you have some very valuable cards?
I have a few. I mean, the Tom Brady one is probably one because I mean it is a. I mean, how many rookie cards of Tom Brady? Because he was what the sixth round pick,
Right,
right?
right, right.
It's not like he was made a lot of them. But we have some pretty nice Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, because I'm a big Packer fan. My family, although I grew up here, my family's all from Wisconsin. My family has season tickets to the Green Bay Packers. So we have some pretty nice cards. And then my dad has passed down some, Robin Yount, some cards he had from a very early age that are pretty special. Those are up in a little bit more of a secure place at my parents' place.
Well, my baseball cards did. I don't think they have. I don't think they made it to this house. I might have a couple here somewhere, but the I don't know. I feel like that's one of those collectible things that I think I did it maybe when I was younger, and then I switched over to comic books and still
Mhm.
have a bunch of boxes of those in a storage area in the basement. Uh, right. So the next couple of questions. This is kind of what we call the little bit of a lightning round.
Yeah, yeah.
So you don't have to get into too deep. But you're used to that, the minute 15 package kind of thing. So this is like the 4 second package, right?
Yeah.
So what is what's the last book you've read or the last podcast you've listened to?
The Rest is History podcast, my favorite one. And right now they just finished a series on Jack the Ripper, which was fascinating.
Okay. Favorite local restaurant?
Pendolino, it's actually just outside, close to where we live, new Italian place. The food reminds me of Italy.
Okay. Favorite guilty pleasure?
A root beer float. Root beer is
Oh,
my
that's a good
favorite
one.
soda, and I like having that little vanilla flavor.
Is there a place where you like to get your root beer float?
No, although I was recently in Colorado Springs and they had like the old style soda fountain type thing
Yeah,
in front of me.
yeah.
Oh, it was maybe the best root beer float I've had this year.
That is kind of one of one of my guilty pleasures is a good Coke float. I also
Mhm.
like a good egg cream because my dad used to make egg creams with the old Bert's you bet syrup and
Mm.
I remember him taking me to the soda counter where the guy would make them. So that's kind of one of my things. Okay, favorite local getaway.
Local getaway. Yeah, see, my wife and I, we're big international folks. Like we're going to Thailand in a couple of weeks. Local getaway. I mean, can I just say the mountains of Blue Ridge because we're mountain folks if we can
Yep.
help it. We stay away from beaches.
Yeah, yeah. That Blue Ridge is popular. That's a great one. Uh, favorite non-work hobby.
Other than basketball, because that's obvious. My wife and I will make cocktails. We'll actually have cocktail competitions if we can, because we have a relatively extensive bar cart. And
Okay.
we'll end up trying to see who can make the best drink, usually with a show.
My parents used to have this little. It's like a little Rolodex thing, and it was like a drink machine basically, and you'd turn the little wheel, and it would give you the recipe for all kind, whatever drink you wanted. I don't know
Uh,
whatever happened to that. I'll have to ask my mom. I don't, I
yeah.
don't think that has survived the times.
What we try to do is if we have a drink at a place we like, we'll take a picture and then I'll try to see if I can't recreate it and try to guess what their different things are. And usually I can get pretty close, 85% of what they did in the restaurant, but we try.
I had a really good old fashioned at a restaurant in Chattanooga. It's like 2, 3 years ago,
Mhm.
and I don't know what I can't remember what was in there, but I haven't found one that was as good since then. I like to try them at different places, and sometimes they're like, yeah, it's
Mhm.
just sometimes they're just flat. There's just something they added into it that was really good,
Always
And
take a picture. Always take a picture of their old fashioned of what little ingredient or ask. Sometimes they
yeah, I bet it's on their menu. If I Googled like the hotel and the bar menu, maybe it'll be on there too. And I would, all right, and then I'll ask Michael. I said, Michael, can you make this drink for me?
I'll do my
And
best.
there you go. There we go. Are there any, I always like to ask you, are there any kind of causes or nonprofits or anything like that that's kind of near and dear to your heart that you want to talk about? Kind of a group that you support, anything like that?
Unfortunately, that's not really where I get that involved. I mainly just tithe to my church, and that's kind of my charitable
Okay.
giving.
No, that's good. I mean, the church in our down around the corner from me is amazingly involved in supporting so many different
Mhm.
missions, from immigrants to homeless to scouting program. It's churches are an incredible support mechanism and a great thing to support in any community. All right, anything else that we haven't talked about your work, or interesting things about Michael that people don't know that we should mention before we wrap for today?
I mean, I just really just appreciate the time. I've loved being able to come back to my home market, working for a station that's been here for 75 plus years. I mean, this is the station that my grandpa, Papa, used to live with us in the basement. I remember after getting home from school or practice, I'd go downstairs and I would watch the news with him. I remember when Fred Blankenship was a new anchor and would watch the newscast with my dad, with my papa, and those moments were special. And to be able to work on that same station, in that same market, it's special. And I never want to take for granted the opportunity that I have to work at a place I do and to tell the stories that I am able to as well.
Yeah, it is a great legacy station. I told Justin Farmer, who's no longer with the station, but when I was just starting out, I used to watch both of his parents,
Hmm.
uh, you know, anchoring Channel 2 News, and I thought it was really cool when he kind of followed in the footsteps for many years and did the same. Um, and so anyway, that's just a
No,
cool thing.
it's special. I mean, that's what makes sometimes those personal connections is what makes local news great, right? Like, yes, it is the coverage of keeping people informed, but it's also having a tradition of being involved in the community that goes back through generations. Um, and it's that connection you feel and those memories you have that can make certain parts of life special.
Very good. We've been talking with Michael Doudna, WSB Television. Michael, thank you so much for being with us today. As always, you can find our archive of four questions journalist spotlights on YouTube in the video format. And if you want to just listen in audio, you can go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts, and listen that way. And then, as always, if you're looking for our Leff's Atlanta database of Atlanta Media, there it is there behind me there, on the other shoulder. Go to leffsatlantamedia.com and you can subscribe to that. And you also get access to our Mitch's Media Musings blog and newsletter that comes out every month, and other things that pop up once in a while too as a benefit for subscribers. And thank you, and we will see everyone in 2 weeks.